You graduated from KCL as a pharmacist and have continued your professional development with numerous postgraduate qualifications in leadership capability, health economics, pharmaceutical management, and organizational leadership. You're a senior commercial leader currently working as a vice president at Bristol Myers Squibb. Is it Squibb, is that?
That's good.
Yeah. Specializing in the field of cancer therapies and have worked in the UK, US, and Europe. You also have a passion for DEI and spend a lot of personal time talking with students about the pharmaceutical industry. So can you share with us a pivotal moment or experience that has shaped your approach to leadership and how it aligns with your passion for mentoring the next generation and fostering inclusive environments?
Thank you, Param, and thank you for inviting me. I was actually meant to be an attendee and then found myself being asked to speak, which I'm very grateful for. So, as a bit of backdrop, as Param, as you said, I went to King's to be a pharmacist. I knew a couple of things. I didn't want to work as a retail pharmacist, no disrespect to anyone who owns a pharmacy. And I also knew I didn't want to work in a lab. And those, 30 years ago when I went to university, those were the two areas that we were sort of told about you could go into. So I spent the first half of my career in the NHS and then in the pharmaceutical industry in clinical development, but more designing clinical trials, desk-based, not lab-based. And I was really curious about the decision-making in business, but had zero business background other than the fact that my parents had been in business, but that was about it. But I remember quite a pivotal moment in my career that I think has shaped the type of leader I am is actually a senior commercial leader involving me in discussions about affordability of prices for cancer drugs, asking me my opinion. And I remember sort of saying to him on the side, like, I have no clue about business. And he said a couple of things to me. He said, you're very curious, you challenge my thinking, you challenge the team's business thinking, and I need more people who speak up. I actually thought I was more of a troublemaker than what, the intellect he came out with, give me a reason. But he actually, a year later, took a gamble on me to move me to a business role without having an MBA, which a lot of my peers did, who were in business role with the business sector of pharmaceutical industry. And I think that experience was very much about, at that time, which was quite a long while ago, he referred to it as taking a gamble on looking at transferable skill sets, which was a very different way decades ago to think about it versus have you done this, and this. And I think that's really shaped how I think about leadership and really trying to invite different views. Particularly because for the last 20 years I've worked in cancer therapies on the clinical research side, on the business side. And we are moving very forward with cancer therapies and getting closer to cure. But the more we get closer to cure, the more expensive these drugs are. So inviting different views from people, particularly younger generation, who are learning different ways of learning and being taught differently in courses and in different courses to sort of the traditional ones at university. I've really tried to encourage them to think outside the box, involve them when we're sort of doing think tanks and brainstormings to think differently. And, one classic example is I certainly wasn't taught anything about business or AI in my pharmacy degree. It's now taught. So actually trying to have an inclusive leadership to include younger generations to think outside the box is really important. So if you just think about AI in the space of diagnosis for cancer therapies, it's huge. So I think my leadership in summary has really been about how do you include people who don't necessarily have all the experiences but can come in to problem solve really complicated issues with trying to get drugs to patients and trying to make drugs more affordable through different mechanisms and methodologies of outcome-based agreement, which I won't bore everyone with. But I think over the years that's become my passion, and so my giving back in the number of companies I've worked with, and I sort of worked with Novartis and now I work with Bristol Myers Squibb, is trying to implement graduate schemes and internships, partnering with a graduate. We also developed quite an interesting concept of reverse mentoring, which took a lot of selling into the company And we actually managed to implement this all the way up to the CEO and LT for them to have reverse mentors, which again has been a different approach to thinking about how to problem solve really complicated decisions. And I think the other area which I'm very passionate about, and I do believe in most industries, particularly in my one, we need to think that way, which is you need to evolve from saying, have people done this experience, and this experience? You've got to look at transferable skill set. So a lot of the last sort of 10 years I've spent trying to create career pathways and programs for people to come and get different experiences who've either worked in clinical, marketing, to come in. And lastly, so I spend a lot of my time speaking to sixth formers and as part of the KCL alumni for pharmacy, to encourage people to understand that as you think about the pharmaceutical industry, which has a negative connotation with it sometimes because of prices, is you can do more than retail pharmacy or lab work, which is great, but there's so much more you can do in the industry, and we need people to come in with very different skill sets to help us solve these problems. So in short, I am very passionate about trying to drive that inclusive leadership and trying to encourage sort of the CEO level above me and board members, as you said, to think in that way. And it's not easy. And I'll just say about the mobility piece, this is a constant. I mean, I'm very fortunate. So we have a dual career family. We moved to the US and moved back, which massively helped my husband and ourselves in our career. But a lot of great talent can't move. And today I do head up a global organisation for cell therapy, and I'm doing it out of the UK. I was the first person at my level to be allowed to do it out of the UK, and I use that as a role model to try and encourage the company to move the needle slightly, to let great talent be from their base and do the roles, because it's so possible now with all the virtual technology we have. So yeah, just some thoughts about sort of the questions you've asked.
Thank you, Neelam.